Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're taking a look at the 10 toughest levels to ever be featured in the Donkey Kong franchise. Before we begin, we publish new videos all week long, so be sure to subscribe to MojoPlays and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Clobber Carnage, Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest. Of all the Donkey Kong games we've seen over the decades, DKC 2 has long been known to be the hardest in the franchise's history. Clobber Carnage is just one of several levels that earned the game its infamy. For starters, there are a ton of clobbers scattered throughout the level, causing the player to be suspicious of just about every barrel they come across. Barrel cannons, on the other hand, require you to have either Diddy or Dixie in order to retrieve all of the collectibles in the level, and chances are you might only have one of them when you come across them. And just to top off the entire headache, the final stretch is an on-rails segment where you must time your barrel cannon launches along with the movement of one cannon as it makes its way to the exit. Tippin' Totems, Donkey Kong Country Returns. Though it isn't as hard as DKC 2, Returns still gets pretty close to being as challenging as the 1995 SNES classic, with certain hazards able to insta-kill you. Tippin' Totems won't make you sweat over something like that, but the amount of hazards it does throw can still be overwhelming. Be prepared for swarms of bats every so often, plenty of poisonous plants that shoot spores from all kinds of directions, and lots of teetering towers of totems. Needless to say, be mindful of where you're jumping to and use Diddy's jetpack as often as you can, assuming he's still alive. Coin Dozer Clamor, Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble. If you're trying to complete DKC 3, then Coin Dozer Clamor is going to make or break you. At first, it won't give you too much trouble. The first third is expectedly composed of Coin Dozer Kremlings, which will constantly shield themselves from you. But you can trick these guys into turning their shields into platforms. Unfortunately, if you get on their level, they will charge at you and try to push you off the edge. Later on, you'll have to time jumps on barrels launched by bazookas and try to get past the springy recoils that appear towards the end. Dixie's gliding ability can make this level easier, but if she gets hit, the rest of the level is going to be tumultuous for you when you just have Kiddy Kong. Platform Perils, Donkey Kong Country. Of the final levels featured in the original DKC, Platform Perils is the most challenging. You will be subjected to a lot of moving platforms, a lot of enemies ambushing you from off screen, and a few moments where you may have to take leaps of faith. And once you get about halfway through, you're gonna start running into Grey Crushes, Kremlings that can only be defeated by tossing barrels into them. It's all a lot to juggle, and it requires you to really lock in order to finally reach King K. Rool. Platform Problems, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Not to be confused with the level that we literally just talked about. No, Platform Problems is the hardest level in all of Tropical Freeze. You need to be at the top of your game when it comes to timing, as you'll come across platforms that can only be jumped on at certain times, platforms that suddenly drop, and platforms that can only be reached by jumping through very narrow passages. But the most harrowing segment is right at the very end, when you have to jump between multiple platforms while a lone platform moves along its own railing. Yeah, you're gonna need Dixie for this arduous trek. Her gliding makes this level way easier. New Donk City, Donkey Kong Bonanza.
This is my city! Yes! We made it!
Overall, Donkey Kong Bonanza is a super easy game to get through. Like, comically easy. But the very last level in the game is bound to throw you for a loop with how suddenly difficult things become. You will have to utilize every Bonanza transformation in the game in order to make it through the lava-flooded New Donk City. Zebra, ostrich, gorilla, snake, elephant, you're gonna need to understand every single one's mechanics and abilities and destroy enough of the environment so that you can transform instantly as soon as your current Bonanza expires. Hope you've refined your destruction skills, or you might be dying a handful of times.
Ooh, he is gonna pay for this.
Bramble Scramble, Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest. For anyone who has played DKC2, Bramble Scramble has haunted many a player. As the level's name implies, Bramble is covering every single corner, and just one touch will cause you to either be down a Kong or die instantly. Not only that, but there are stingers flying everywhere. You're practically always having to err on the side of caution whenever you make just an ounce of progress. At least Squawker comes with a projectile attack that does take care of the stingers. If only there was something to take care of, you know, the thorns. But would you believe this isn't even the hardest level in DKC2? Don't worry, we'll get to the hardest one in just a little bit. Poison Pond, Donkey Kong Country. Poison Pond is one of those levels where it's going to be as hard as you make it. However, no matter what you do, it remains to be the hardest level in the entire game. See, Poison Pond is packed to the brim with spinning spiked wheels and squidges. You will also come across some fish that might be tough to spot if you aren't paying attention, because you know, some things gotta blend into the background for some reason. And if you manage to get on guard the swordfish from the hidden wall, mind his speed, as using it too much can send you into a hazard or an enemy. So try not to get careless and reckless with showing your speedrunning skills in this level. This is not the level to do it, alright? Not all of us are built for speedruns. Perilous Passage, Donkey Kong Country Returns. Remember earlier when we mentioned how Returns likes to get carried away with the insta-kills? Well, if you didn't understand that early on in, say, World 2, you're going to learn in Perilous Passage. This is the final level of the Cliff World, and it's the toughest level in the entire game. Rising lava, precise platforming, enemies coming from off-screen, pursuing bionic bees, which are annoying, and even springboards are going to constantly keep you on your toes. So long as you have a firm grasp on how jumping works in Returns, maybe you won't suffer as badly as a casual player might. But one level still manages to trump this in terms of being the hardest Donkey Kong level in history. Toxic Tower, Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest. Toxic Tower is every DKC player's worst nightmare, and possibly the biggest reason why DKC2 is labeled the hardest game in the franchise. Throughout the level, green acid will continuously rise up, meaning you're going to have to grab all of the collectibles in one go. No backtracking allowed unless you're starting the level from the very beginning again. To make things even more excruciating, there are constantly stingers in the way, some being required to make certain jumps on in the first third of the level. Maintaining speed and momentum is your top priority, so if you're planning to 100% DKC2, be prepared to restart several times, and maybe several times more. But what do you think is the hardest level across the Donkey Kong franchise? Let us know down in the comments, and be sure to subscribe to MojoPlays for more great videos every day.